Every single day, good men, kind-hearted, well-meaning, emotionally available men walk away from something real. Not because it wasn't there, not because it wasn't genuine, but simply because it didn't look like what they were told love was supposed to look like. They've been conditioned by movies, media, even childhood fairy tales, searching for fireworks, sweeping declarations, love that shouts from the rooftops. They were looking for passion that explodes, for grand gestures that command attention, for bold words that leave no doubt. But here's the quiet truth: real love, it rarely arrives dressed that way. Sometimes the deepest kind of love doesn't shout, it hides, it hesitates, it lingers quietly behind guarded eyes, behind the kind of smile that seems too tight, too fleeting, like it's protecting something fragile. It lives in silence. It whispers rather than roars. It's soft, scared, unsure, because it's real. And real love knows the cost of being seen. That's what today's video is about. Not guesswork, not fantasy, but something deeper. A glimpse into the quiet signs her heart has already chosen you, even if her lips have never said it. You see, human behavior, real, raw, vulnerable human behavior, always leaves a trace. Once you learn to read it, you'll never look at connection the same way again. So let me ask you something personal. What if the greatest love of your life is already here, standing right in front of you, but hiding behind pride, pain, and silence? Would you even notice? Would you be able to see her truth if she was too afraid to show it? Most men don't. They mistake quiet for disinterest. They assume distance means she doesn't care. They walk away from a connection that was aching to be chosen. But you don't have to be one of them, not anymore. If you're tired of missing what's real, if you're ready to stop being blind to the signs that matter most, then stay with me. What you're about to hear might save you from walking away from something truly rare. And if this resonates with you, support this movement. You're not just helping this channel, you're helping another man finally open his eyes. 1. Subconscious loyalty. When someone's heart is quietly tethered to yours, you won't always know it through words. You won't hear long monologues or flowery declarations, because loyalty, real loyalty, doesn't need a spotlight. It doesn't demand applause. It doesn't parade itself in public or wait to be thanked. It simply exists, steady, unshakable, like a thread running quietly between two hearts, seen only in the moments that matter most. It shows not in what they say, but in the decisions they make, especially when life is messy, inconvenient, or overwhelming. Subconscious. Loyalty is never loud. It doesn't come dressed in heroics. It moves like a shadow, always there, always near. Even when you forget to look for it, you'll notice it when you least expect it. When you're having a bad day and they check in without being prompted. When they show up, not because it's easy, but because you matter. They don't say, "Today, I will prove I care." They don't plan it or script it or make it Instagram-worthy. They just show up without needing a reason, without expecting a reward, without asking for anything in return. And here's what truly matters most. They show up when it would have been easier not to, when they had other plans, when the timing was bad, when they had every excuse to step away, but stayed, when no one would have blamed them for choosing themselves, but instead they chose you. That's when you see it. The real kind of loyalty. The kind that doesn't flinch. The kind that doesn't just appear when it's convenient. It shows up when it's hard. Maybe she cancels plans without explanation, not to punish you, but to be close when she senses you're off. Maybe she reaches out when you've gone quiet, not to pry, but because something in her feels your distance, like a shift in the weather. Maybe she listens, not because your words are perfect, but because she's tuning into how you say them, how you're carrying yourself, how heavy your spirit feels. She gives you her time without hesitation, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, because to her, it is. Loyalty, for her, isn't an effort. It's instinct, and what's even more powerful, she doesn't even realize she's doing it. That's why it's called subconscious loyalty. It becomes a pattern, one you didn't notice at first. But over time, it becomes impossible to ignore. She's there, during the quiet spells, during your stress, when things fall apart. And she stays, not because she's waiting for you to notice, not because she's keeping score, but because something in her soul already sees you as someone worth standing beside. Loyalty like this is rare. It doesn't come with grand declarations. It doesn't demand to be seen. In fact, it hides because it's real, because it's sacred. Her loyalty isn't an act, it's a reflection of emotional gravity. Your pain, it matters to her. Your silence, it echoes in her chest. Your well-being, it becomes something she tends to gently, even when you don't ask. So the next time someone keeps showing up, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly and consistently, don't overlook it. It's not politeness. It's not coincidence. It's not obligation. It's a heart already anchored to yours, hoping you'll finally feel what she's too afraid to speak. 2. Emotional inconsistency. You've seen it before. Maybe you've even felt it deep in your gut. One moment, she's fully there. Her smile doesn't just curve at the edges. It reaches her eyes. Her energy, it leans toward you, not away. She laughs like nothing else in the world exists, and her presence, God, it feels magnetic, like the universe itself made space for just the two of you. And in that moment, it feels like she's all in, like the wall came down, like the light broke through, like everything you were hoping for is finally here. Then without warning, the warmth, gone, the messages, they slow down, the energy, it retreats. You feel it like a drop in temperature. Suddenly, there's distance, silence, space, and you're left wondering, was it ever real? Did I just imagine it? Was she pretending? Most men, good men, don't understand what's happening. They take it personally. They feel rejected. They spiral. They think she's losing interest. Or worse, she was just playing with me. But here's the truth. What you're witnessing isn't a game. It's a war, a quiet, invisible, internal war, one she's been fighting long before she ever met you. It's the battle between the part of her that wants to trust you and the part that remembers exactly what happened the last time she did. Because when a woman has been wounded by betrayal, by abandonment, by broken promises, her heart doesn't just move on, it builds walls, strong, silent ones. Not to punish you, but to protect the fragile pieces she's still holding together. So when she's warm, open, close, that's the part of her that's still hoping. That's her heart saying, maybe, just maybe, it's safe this time. But when she pulls away, grows cold, goes quiet, that's fear. That's her past whispering, don't get too close. You remember what happened last time. This is emotional inconsistency, not as a manipulation tactic, not as a way to test you, but as a symptom of a heart that wants to love and is terrified of being hurt again. She doesn't mean to confuse you. She's not trying to punish you. She's just scared. And fear, when it comes from a place of trauma, doesn't always scream. Sometimes it sighs. Sometimes it retreats. Sometimes it freezes. You'll see it in delayed replies, vague answers, in conversations that once felt alive, but now feel like they've been edited down to nothing, in eyes that once looked directly into yours, now scanning the floor. If you don't understand this, you'll misread everything. You'll think she's done with you, when really, she's just afraid of how much she wants you. You'll think she's cold, when really she's burning with conflict. Because here's the truth. A woman who doesn't care about you, she stays steady, flat, unaffected, emotionally dull. But a woman who's emotionally invested, who's terrified of getting it wrong again, she will give you glimpses of her truth, then hide it in fear. She'll open the door, then slam it shut, not because she's playing, but because she's asking, "Can I trust you with this heart I've barely kept together?" So what do? You don't chase, you don't beg, you don't lash out, you don't become the chaos she's afraid of. You become her stillness, her anchor, her calm in the storm. You don't fix her past, you don't force her forward. You simply be there, not with pressure, but with presence, not with demands, but with patience. Because real love isn't proven by passion, it's proven by presence. And when she feels that, when she senses that you are safe, grounded, and not going anywhere, the inconsistency begins to fade. Not because you forced her to change, but because your stability gave her permission to finally soften. So the next time her warmth flickers, don't walk away. Don't mislabel her fear as disinterest. Ask yourself, am I the kind of man who can hold space for a woman who's still healing? Because if you are, you'll discover something most men never do. A heart that didn't just fall for you quickly, but chose you slowly, carefully, honestly. 3. Emotional reactivity. When someone feels something real, not fleeting, not fake, but soul-stirring and raw, it doesn't always show up polished or perfect. In fact, it rarely does. Because true emotion isn't scripted. It doesn't walk in with poise and logic. It rushes in like a wave, messy, unexpected, hard to contain. That's why when a woman truly cares, it might not come out in the way you want. It might not even come out in the way she wants. It escapes. It leaks. It surfaces in moments she can't control. She might not say how much you mean to her. She might even go out of her way to act like she doesn't care. But her emotions, they'll speak for her, loudly, clearly, before her lips ever do. Watch closely. You'll see it in the way her mood shifts when you're too friendly with someone else, in the sharp sarcasm that slips out when you cancel plans, in the silence that lingers too long after you mention another woman's name. This is emotional reactivity. And it's not drama. It's not manipulation. It's not immaturity. It's a clue, a signal, a flare from her subconscious. Because if she felt nothing, if her heart wasn't involved, she'd stay still. There'd be no tension, no reaction, no coldness, just polite indifference. But when the feelings run deep, they don't stay hidden. They flare up, because love, when unspoken, creates pressure, and pressure always finds a crack to escape through. It's not because she's dramatic. It's not a game. It's instinct. It's her internal alarm system going off, because vulnerability makes her feel exposed. And when you've been burned before, when your trust has been shattered, that kind of exposure feels dangerous. That's why she reacts, not to punish you, not to push you away, but because part of her is terrified that you'll be the one to walk away, quietly, suddenly, like someone else once did. So what does she do? She hides behind sarcasm. She puts up walls. She pretends not to care. But behind all of that, there's fear, there's vulnerability, there's hope. Hope she's afraid to admit. You see, most men miss this completely. They think she's being moody. They think she's playing hard to get. They label her emotional, complicated, confusing, but they're wrong. What they're witnessing is emotion leaking through a crack she couldn't seal in time. A raised eyebrow, a shift in tone, a long pause, an unexpected argument over something small. None of it is random. These are signs, raw, human, imperfect signs, that she feels more than she's ready to say out loud. And if you're not careful, you'll walk away too soon. You'll miss the truth hiding beneath the tension. You'll misinterpret her reaction as a red flag, when it's actually a plea asking, "Am I safe with you? Will you walk away too?" Or will you stay long enough to see what I'm trying to protect? So what do? You don't match her fire with fire. You don't raise your voice to prove a point. You don't retaliate. You become her calm. You stay steady. You remain grounded. You read the signs. You listen between the words. You hold space for her reaction without getting swallowed by it. Because a man who can stay calm in her storm, that's the man she'll never forget. She may not say it. She may not even realize what you've done. But deep down, she'll remember the one man who saw past her defense mechanisms and chose to stay. The one who understood her reaction wasn't rejection. It was protection. Because love makes people vulnerable, and vulnerability makes people react. If you can learn to see emotional reactivity not as chaos, but as courage trying to come up for air, you'll become the kind of man her heart has been waiting for. 4. Attentive listening. We live in a world drowning in noise, a world where everyone hears, but almost no one listens. Phones buzz, notifications pull us in every direction, thoughts race faster than conversations. People speak before others finish. And in this whirlwind of sound and distraction, genuine connection often dies in the silence between scrolling and speaking. Everyone is busy, everyone is preoccupied, everyone is waiting to talk. Not many are truly present enough to listen. But when someone truly listens to you, not just hears your words, but listens like your thoughts matter, everything slows down. Time seems to pause. Your words finally land somewhere that feels safe. Because real listening, deep, intentional, focused listening, is one of the rarest and most sacred gifts you'll ever receive. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't interrupt. It doesn't multitask. It whispers, "I'm here. Keep going." And here's the part most men miss. When a woman truly cares, you may not always know it from the things she says, but you'll feel it in how she listens. She pauses what she's doing, she puts down the phone, she turns her full attention toward you, not just her eyes, but her energy. She's not waiting to speak, she's not distracted by the world, she's present, fully, completely. In that moment, you matter. Not just what you're saying, but how you're saying it. Not just your point, but the pain behind it. The sigh between your words. The way your smile fades slightly when you talk about something difficult. The subtle tremble in your voice you didn't even notice. She's listening to all of it, because her listening isn't just with ears. It's with her whole presence, her emotional awareness, her intuition, her soul. She hears the story behind the story. She notices the chapters you're too tired to say out loud. She picks up on the weight you carry but never name. And she doesn't interrupt. She doesn't rush to offer advice. She doesn't try to fix it all. Because sometimes all you need is someone who listens, not to respond but to understand. That's what she's doing. She's giving you the gift of emotional safety. She's allowing you to be vulnerable, to be flawed, to be unfiltered. And she's still there, still listening, like you're the only voice that matters in the world. And that kind of listening, it's not casual. It's care. You don't need to impress her. You don't need to perform. You don't need to be polished or articulate or even right. You just need to be real. Because when she listens like that, she's telling you, without words, you're safe with me. You don't have to carry it alone. And if you notice her remembering things you barely remember telling her, the dream you shared in passing, the name you mumbled half asleep, the exact tone you use when you talk about your father, that's not coincidence, that's devotion. Her memory is guided by emotion, and you've become part of her emotional landscape. Men often wait for love to announce itself, to be loud, to be obvious, to be undeniable. But love doesn't always shout. Sometimes it listens, And in that stillness, it tells you everything you've ever needed to hear. So if a woman ever sits across from you and listens with her whole heart, if she remembers what matters to you, pause. Honor that moment, because in today's noisy world, her silence may be the loudest declaration of love you'll ever receive. 5. Remembering tiny details. We're often taught to look for love in the big moments, the flowers, the surprises, the romantic confessions under moonlight. But the truth, real love, doesn't always arrive with a bang. It doesn't always come dressed in sparkles or celebrated on social media. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it hides in the background. Sometimes it's tucked into moments so small, so easily missed, that you almost step over them until you look again. Because sometimes love doesn't roar, it remembers. It remembers the exact way you like your eggs. Not because you told her 10 times, but because you said it once, maybe absent-mindedly, maybe in passing, and it stuck. Because you stuck, she brings up a memory you barely recall sharing. Maybe you mentioned it while half asleep. Maybe you didn't even finish the story, but she remembered, because to her, that moment was a window into your world, and she paid attention. She knows which jacket is your favorite, not because it's the most expensive or the most stylish, but because it's the one you always reach for when you're tired or overwhelmed or just need comfort. And she saw that, and filed it away, not in her mind, but in her heart. That's not coincidence, that's emotional focus. You see, memory isn't just a mental process, it's emotional filtration. We don't store everything, we keep what moves us, we forget what doesn't leave a mark. So when someone remembers the tiny things, the overlooked, the unspoken, the trivial, to you but meaningful to them, it's because you're no longer just part of their environment. You've become part of their emotional landscape. You've become a presence. And that presence, it lingers. Men often miss this. They wait for the movie scene romance. They chase after dramatic proof. They think, if she loved me, she'd make it obvious. But here's the truth. What's most real is often most quiet. What's most genuine is hidden in the details. When she remembers how you fidget with your keys when you're anxious. When she notices your silence on a day you usually ramble. When she brings you your comfort drink without asking, not to impress you, not to win you over, but because she simply knows. That's not small, that's sacred. Memory is a mirror. It too reflects what matters. And if she remembers things you didn't even realize you were revealing, it means she's been watching gently, quietly, lovingly. She's not keeping score. She's keeping connection. She may recall a story you only told once, a dream you buried, a name you whispered with emotion, a joke you thought only you and found funny. And when she brings it up again, days or weeks later, she's not trying to prove anything. She's telling you, you left a mark. You mattered enough to stay in my mind. In a world where people swipe and scroll through, lives at lightning speed, where names are forgotten faster than they're saved, being remembered is no small thing. It's a declaration of emotional presence. It's a form of love that doesn't need to be loud to be true. So the next time she remembers something small, a food you hate, a dream you once shared, a worry you brushed off, and pause, because in that moment she's saying something most people never find the courage to speak out loud. I see you, I hear you, I'm with you. And that's love in its most beautiful unspoken form. 6. Seeking proximity. We live in a world where it's easy to fake things. A smile can be practiced, politeness can be performed. You can fake enthusiasm, curiosity, even interest. For a while. But what you can't fake, what no one can hide, is the subtle, aching discomfort that creeps in when someone you deeply care about is suddenly not there. And this is the signal most men completely overlook, because we're Taught to measure love by presence, how often someone calls, how frequently they text, how physically close they stay. But real love, it's often most visible in how someone responds to your absence. You might not hear the words. She might never say, "I miss you." But her behavior will shift. Her energy will change. She'll feel a quiet panic when the connection fades, even slightly. She may not know how to name it. She may not even admit it to herself. But watch what happens when you pull back even a little. Does she find small reasons to reach out? Does she send you a message about something random just to keep the thread alive? Does she check in casually under the disguise of something unimportant? That's not manipulation. That's not a game. That's emotional proximity. At work, it's her heart trying to stay connected to something that makes her feel safe. It's her attachment system whispering, "Stay close. Don't let this drift too far." When someone's emotionally attached to you, their behavior becomes subtle but intentional. She might invite you to something random. She might ask for your opinion on something she already knows the answer to. She might accidentally call just to ask something she could have Googled. But beneath all of that, there's a core desire to keep you emotionally near, because closeness brings peace and distance brings uncertainty. She might not fully understand what she's doing. It might not be conscious. It might not even make sense to her friends, but her emotional system is doing what it knows. Protect the connection. Preserve the bond. Don't let him slip away. If she seems slightly off when you go quiet, if she lights up when you return, if she finds ways to linger near you, to sit beside you, to extend your time together just a little longer, that's not casual behavior. That's emotional gravity pulling her in. Most men misread it. They assume she's just being friendly. They think, "Oh, she's nice to everyone." But if you look closer, you'll start to see a pattern. The check-in when you disappear, the random call after a quiet spell, the way she's suddenly more active in your orbit after you withdraw. That's not randomness, that's not habit, that's attachment. It's a quiet tug-of-war inside her. Her mind says, "Play it cool." Her heart says, "Don't lose him." She won't always chase. She won't always say it, but her actions will reflect what her pride won't allow her to speak. And if you're tuned in, if you're the kind of man who can read beneath the surface, you'll realize she's not reaching out to pass time. She's reaching out to stay close. Because to her, emotional proximity feels like safety, and the thought of emotional distance feels like losing control over something precious. You'll see it in how she leans toward you instead of away, in how she watches the door when you leave and relaxes slightly when you return, in how she unconsciously chooses the seat closest to yours, in how her energy calms in your presence, even if nothing is said. If she can go days without hearing from you and feel nothing, that's detachment. That's disinterest. But if silence stirs her, if your absence makes her uncomfortable in a way she can't explain, if she's suddenly present in tiny ways just to feel near you again, then you're not just a name in her phone. You're not just another conversation. You're a presence her soul is already orbiting. And that's not something to overlook. That's not something to take lightly. That's a love quietly anchoring itself to you, hoping you'll recognize it before it fades into silence. 7. Silent protectiveness. We've been conditioned to believe that love is loud, that it roars with declarations, that it rescues dramatically, that it shows up with fanfare when everything falls apart. But the truth? Love, real, grounded, lasting love, often whispers. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't demand credit. It simply acts, because sometimes the truest sign of care is the quiet, unspoken, unannounced urge to protect you without ever being asked. When someone truly feels for you, They don't wait for a breakdown to step in. They don't wait for you to cry out. They don't stand by until you collapse. They notice the shift in your voice before you realize you're hurting. They catch the tightness in your smile before you admit you're struggling. They see the tension in your shoulders and start adjusting the world around you without a word. Because their love isn't reactive, it's instinctive. She'll offer warmth when she senses you're cold, not physically, but emotionally. She'll bring you something comforting before you even know you need it. She'll tease you about taking better care of yourself, and behind that playful tone, there's real worry. There's a kind of attentiveness that doesn't want anything in return. It's just there, because she cares. She'll stand a little closer when she feels you're anxious, not to draw attention to herself, but to ground you. Because protectiveness isn't always about being loud or bold. It doesn't wear armor or swing swords. It doesn't show up with a superhero cape. It shows up in silence, in small acts, in presence, in positioning herself between you and what might hurt, sometimes emotionally, sometimes physically. It's the little ways she holds space for you to fall apart, without judgment, without asking when you'll pull yourself together. You'll see it in how she watches you from across the room when you're overwhelmed. In how she gently shifts the conversation when she senses something's triggering you. In how she quietly makes the environment feel safer for you without making a scene. She listens closer. She pays attention to the things you don't say. She notices patterns you don't even realize you've been repeating. She reacts when life begins to weigh on you, not with panic, but with quiet, stabilizing energy. And what's even more telling, she might never say, "I'm here to protect you." She might brush it off. She might make a joke. She might act like what she did was nothing, but don't be fooled. Her silent protectiveness isn't obligation. It's not habit. It's emotional gravity. It pulls her closer to your pain, closer to your chaos, closer to your cracks, not because she has to, but because something in her soul has already chosen you. Most men never notice this. They're so busy looking for grand gestures, for someone to say, "I love you," for signs that scream, but real love. It hides in the quiet, in the way she straightens your jacket, in the way she stands beside you when no one else sees you breaking. She won't demand recognition. She won't post it online. She won't even realize she's doing it half the time. Because when someone's heart is truly involved, protecting you isn't something they try to do. It's something they can't help but do. And that's where most men go wrong. They miss the woman who shielded them in silence, who fought for their peace while saying nothing. Why? Because they were waiting for louder signs. They thought love had to announce itself. But the truest love? It doesn't compete for attention. It doesn't beg to be seen. It simply stays, quietly, consistently, even when it's afraid. So if someone ever shielded you in quiet ways, if they ever showed up, not for applause, but because they just cared, don't let that memory fade. Don't walk away from that kind of love. Be the kind of man who sees, who listens between the words, who understands that not every heart yells when it loves. Some simply stand by, some simply protect, and that, my brother, is the kind of love most men never recognize until it's already gone. Most men miss it. They walk away from a woman who protected them in silence, who stood by them without needing praise, because they were waiting for love to shout. But real love doesn't shout. It stays, it notices, it shields you quietly when you don't even realize you need protection. In a world that celebrates loud affection, the rarest kind of love is the one that whispers, "I'm here." That kind of love is sacred. And if you've ever felt it, don't ignore it. Don't overlook the quiet woman who stayed, who listened, who remembered, who reached for you in silence. Be the man who sees what most never do. who values the subtle signs, because sometimes the most powerful love is the one that never asked to be noticed. It simply was.